We've used LittleData for the past month for one of our top brands, KittySpout, and honestly, this might be a little controversial, but after using LittleData for the last 30 days, I think not enough e-com brand owners are using server-side tracking to improve their retargeting revenue. We've seen outstanding results. In less than 30 days, our targeting email flow revenue has increased by 65%. We set it up in less than 10 minutes. You install the app from Shopify, you clone your existing retargeting flows from Klaviyo, you turn it live, and you basically print money.
Bogdan,
Hello.
I've been working with EmailCom for a few months and
Yep.
had some quite exciting results with KittySpout, one of your clients.
Yep.
So I'd love to just first of all understand a bit of background of you working with them. Like what specific challenges were they facing with their email marketing?
Yeah, 100%. Well, we've been working with KittySpout for 29 months, actually.
Okay.
We've been with them through a journey of going from quite a sort of fast-growing e-com brand to now being 7 figures per month. One of the main challenges with them at the beginning is they didn't have a proper flow foundation, pre-purchase, post-purchase, win-back, churn risk. So that's kind of one of the first things we implemented for them. I think going from a sort of 6-figure brand to 7-figure brand, you get a lot of new customers, and their repeat purchase rate actually dropped quite a lot because they were funneling a lot of new customers at the top of the funnel. The back end wasn't really quite catching up yet.
Yeah.
So we had to essentially increase frequency of email campaigns. We had to add more flows to their Klaviyo, and that, in sort of long story short, that's kind of the main context of KittySpout so far.
Is that a common thing to take well for KittySpout? Is that a common thing, to think brands who are scaling from 6 to 7 figures that they need to up the game?
Yeah,
in
100%. Yeah. You need to, it's a game of impressions and a game of volume here. So, at the very beginning, when you're just getting started, you can easily get away with, a very simple welcome flow, maybe a checkout abandonment. I wouldn't even say you need a browser abandonment in the beginning because your list is quite small. So there's no profiles to be captured with a viewed product metric. And probably like just a very basic, really focus on results type of post-purchase, either with some sort of complementary cross-sell, upsell. And as you grow, you need to multiply everything that you're doing. So send a lot more campaigns. You obviously unlock a lot more budget the more you grow to send even more complex campaigns, maybe to different segments.
Yep.
And then obviously amplify what you have on the email flow side of things as well.
Okay, thank you. So as you say, one of the things you're doing here to step up the game was getting more specific about the abandonment flows, setting up kind of abandoned browse, abandoned cart, abandoned checkouts, and a sort of a waterfall sequence. So as people go through there, they obviously, if they get started to checkout, you send that first. Was there a particular point where you said, okay, this is working okay, but maybe it can work better?
100%, yeah. I mean, this is one of the main reasons we started working with LittleData as well. We always knew data wasn't as accurate as it can be. Obviously, we're heading towards a cookieless era, and you can't really trust browser-side tracking anymore. And as that might be easily skipped for a more lower volume brand, in the very beginning stages, you probably don't need server-side tracking. For a brand like KittySpout, it was getting to the point that we were missing probably thousands of uncaptured profiles. So that was obviously another challenge as well, and that it really helped increase all of our revenue from retargeting flows.
Okay, cool. So do you think the client was aware of this, or is it really, do you think it's your job as the experts to be able to say, look, there are products out there?
It's a very great question, and no, they weren't aware of this.
Yeah,
it's crazy to me because we've been working with quite high growth e-com brands for the last 6 years, and the more I'm in this industry, the more I realize that. And I may be saying something controversial here, but a lot of e-com brands, e-com brand owners, they kind of know acquisition, and that's it, how to grow the brand. And it's like they're missing so much knowledge and on so many different areas of retention. They didn't even know what server side. Like, not to again like, but a lot of them don't even know what server-side
No.
tracking is. So for me personally, it was a journey of educating them on what that is, showing them a couple of different contexts, like, hey, here's what we're missing, here's what we
Mm,
could be doing
mm.
if we would implement that. And to answer your question more directly, yes, it was 100% our responsibility to spot that opportunity and then to implement it, and then obviously to get approval from the brand.
Yeah. And was it only when they actually saw the results in their Klaviyo account they bought into that? Did you feel like it was a sort of trust us? It's a free trial and
As an
share
agency,
the
you
work.
get a lot of you get a lot of trust from the brands. At least we do. So if I come in with a recommendation, 99% of the time, they will say, "Okay, let's give it a try." But it's not like, sure, use my money and then
Yeah,
use what it's. Let's give it a try, and if it brings us an ROI or if it brings the expected results, then we'll stick with it. So that was the case with KittySpout and LittleData. Like, the owners were, sure, sounds great. Let's give it a try. Let's see how it performs. And I think we were like even a week into getting LittleData live, and we were making ROI. So
yeah,
that's at the point at which they were like, okay, that's cool. And for us personally, like obviously as an email agency, we were able to leverage that in so many more ways than just the email flows, because we were able to add the LittleData metrics within our segments as well. So that
yeah,
expanded the size of our metrics and made our metrics a lot more accurate,
yeah,
capturing a lot more accurate data. So, and what we did is we actually sent campaigns to the LittleData segments as well to then look into the Klaviyo's audience breakdown per campaign to see what was the additional revenue captured
yeah,
from the LittleData segments. And that allowed me to give them an even bigger perspective on, hey, here, look at this. Like even the
yeah.
campaigns are getting additional revenue from our data.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point that perhaps we don't make enough with little data is that obviously the product's known, well, we talk about the boost for those specific abandonment flows, but is it actually, it's a general improvement on the richness of the profile. So,
100%,
for
yeah.
example, if you wanted to target someone who'd browsed a particular product category with a category specific campaign, that's only as good as you know who's been browsing. As you said, the basic problem is that a lot of people are on your storefront, but the data is not getting into Klaviyo, or that it's not matched to a Klaviyo profile
Yeah,
specifically. And so,
exactly.
as you say, anything that you want to do to target a personalized by product, by lifetime value, by maybe the value of the cart items in their carts,
Yeah,
these
yeah,
are all enhanced by our data points.
exactly. Yeah,
Yeah. So as you
100%.
say, build audience from the profiles, from the people who've used that metric, who've had that added to cart or browsed event. Yeah.
Yeah.
Give us some examples of the actual results you're seeing in terms of hard numbers. I mean, what were the things that stood out for you as being the biggest wins for KittySpout?
I think so. Obviously, we track our flow performance based on journey.
Mm,
So we have acquisition, which is things like welcome flows and anything that's related to that, like related to a sign up. We have retargeting, which is what we're talking about now, browse abandonment, site abandonment, checkout abandonment, cart abandonment, and then we have post purchase and beyond. So the biggest change I've seen was the increase in email revenue coming from retargeting flows, which I believe last I checked was about 65% increase in revenue
yeah,
coming from retargeting flows
yeah,
within, well, 30 days, 40 something days, something like that.
yeah.
So that was really cool to track that particular journey of our flow stack for KittySpout. And I believe it was about a 27% total increase in email revenue overall.
Very impressive. And when you say retargeting, we're specifically talking about abandoned browse and abandoned cart mainly, like people who got mid funnel but hadn't
Yeah.
actually purchased.
Yeah, exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. So browse abandonment, cart abandonment, and checkout abandonment were the three main flows that we set live. And we do have quite advanced. This is the thing I love about it, is like such an easy plug and play thing that you
Right.
can do it. Like, you already have your strategy, right? Like imagine if it would be a tool where you have to actually hire someone to develop the
Mm,
entire thing for you,
mm,
but it's
mm,
not. You literally clone your flow that you've worked very hard to set up in
mm.
Klaviyo, change the metric, and set it live, and then watch the ROI come in.
Yeah, I mean that's why I
I'm
love.
selling your own
No, no,
product.
you are, but that's why we love partnering with agencies because you're doing the hard bit. The hard bit is the strategizing about what the messaging should be,
Mm,
when to trigger this,
yeah,
how that syncs in with all the other kind of targeting you're doing in Klaviyo. As you say, we're just simply offering a quick upgrade to that,
Yeah,
and that's I think one of the things we push a lot is it really is a 10-minute change. You just go in,
literally.
clone your flow, and then you're done.
The other thing that was quite interesting is that it allowed me to, one when I started doing this and cloning all the flows, it allowed me to kind of spot a few more opportunities as well, to allow me to really go deep into the flows. Oh, actually, we should do this and do this as well. So it was another opportunity for me to kind of reassess our
Yeah,
existing flows
yeah.
before setting it live. Started a few new A/B tests as well. So that was quite cool. But yeah, it took less than 10 minutes to set everything live.
I mean, that's also one of the challenges, I think, of that particular part of Klaviyo is these tend to be what we call set and forget flows, right?
Yeah.
People set them up, then they just they do hum away in the background, but people tend not to go in. And I talk from my own experience here, because
Hmm.
obviously we have a similar thing from LittleData, people who maybe never activated or add the next connection, but we tend to go back in months later and go, oh, dang, we should have actually done this extra thing.
Yeah. Look, I mean, no, we're a platinum Klaviyo agency. We worked a lot of different brands, and I am not ashamed to admit that oftentimes we work so hard on a flow strategy with insane conditional splits and all these cool strategies. And then you kind of, you leave it there for 60, 90 days before you go back and look at what you can optimize. So it's really, I can see why it could be a challenge for a lot of agencies to maintain that level of performance over, let's say, on a regular basis. There's only so many things you can do as well. Like aside from constantly A/B testing different parts of the emails or maybe A/B testing different
Yeah,
offers, there's not much you need. Like I feel like there's also this reverse understanding that you're supposed to constantly do work on a flow that you've just set live. Like the whole point of it is
yeah,
that it's
but
set on
it's,
an
yes,
automated
yeah.
basis. Yeah.
And that you don't
So
have to write new
you
copy
don't.
every month. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
I think that comment you made about the controversial thing. So let's probe that a bit more. So look, I guess the basic problem you have is that for founders, email marketing feels kind of unsexy in the sense it's not going to make or break their business.
No.
Is it fair to say that that's why there's a bit of a blind spot and people don't invest as much effort, as you say, vis-a-vis creating, new video creative or something that feels like, hey, this is game changing for our brand?
Of course, yeah. It's just it's not as instant results type of thing. As if when you hire a paid media agency, you can probably see results as fast as a few days. You can see whether they're doing a better job or a worse job on getting
Yeah.
a better ROAS or doing better creatives, and it's so much easier to see the revenue come in on something like acquisition. Like acquisition, when it comes to retention, there's just so much that goes into it. And I think you said that brand owners think it's unsexy. I think there's two extremes to it. There's the cluster of brand owners that think it's like, oh, what we're gonna do with email, send a couple of newsletters, maybe get a couple of extra.
Yeah.
And then there's the part of the cluster of brand owners that actually have quite insane
Right.
expectations, and they think that setting a couple of email flows is going to give them 30% repeat
Yeah.
customer revenue.
Yeah.
So both of them are wrong
Yeah.
because it's so much more to it than just sending a couple of newsletters. And to get to a 30% returning customer revenue, email won't save a bad product or email won't save a bad delivery
Right.
experience.
Right.
So there's a lot more that goes into it to create a proper retention. I think to me it all comes down to the education around it, which is why what we're doing now is great because
Yeah.
it goes more out into the wider ecom ecosystem.
Yeah, I mean, there's a wider point there about people talk about loyalty being, like loyalty is not your loyalty program. Loyalty is not your email marketing. It's all of those, but it's actually something a lot bigger, which is do customers trust your brand and want to come back to you? Now, do they have a sense of community?
Yeah,
Now,
exactly.
obviously, as you say, email marketing has a part in that because, that's how the brands I follow, that's obviously a way that you kind of feel like you're on their newsletter list. You kind of bought into a bit of their brand ethos. But if the brand doesn't have anything interesting to speak about, there's no reason for it. I mean, do you know what I mean? It's not
Yeah.
loyalty in itself, it's just a part of loyalty.
I like to say loyalty is not a tool.
Yeah.
You know, it's you can install the best loyalty program and set a couple of loyalty email flows. That's not going to do anything for your brand if
Right.
you don't fix the core foundational elements. Like to me, loyalty can be more about inviting your customers to join some sort of private group where they can interact with one another. That's how you build true brand affinity. Loyalty can also be asking your customers to send a video reviewing your product. Like that's how you build true brand affinity, by having someone literally take time out of their day to review your product. Like
Sure.
think about the affinity that that person develops with your brand. So it's everything, you know, it's your delivery experience, it's your product, it's your packaging. It's that's how you build true loyalty. And I'm going to say something even more controversial. I think you can build loyalty without any loyalty programs, to be completely
Of
fair.
course, no, no, definitely.
So yeah.
Definitely, I think loyalty is about, as I said, is about brand affinity. Do you actually feel like this is a brand you want to buy from
Yeah.
again?
And I think there's a false expectations of thinking that all of your customers need to develop loyalty. That it's crazy, you know, like you won't ever achieve such a thing. I think we need to manage expectations that only a very small percentage of your customers will build true loyalty with your brand. And, you know, when you install tools like, you know, the marketing analytics from Klaviyo or other types of like more deep analytic tools, you can see things like your champions, your, you know,
Yeah,
all of these different
yeah,
segments. And I think as long as you have an understanding of the benchmarks for
yeah.
those, then you kind of know this is point A, this is where we are, and this is kind of where we'd like to be, as opposed to not having, because that's the thing about loyalty. You don't really understand what you're supposed to track. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's a good point. And also, as you say, it's not a. The point is, you say, not moving the average for most customers are fundamentally disengaged, not loyal, won't stick around. It's about moving the needle for the very high engaged customers.
Exactly.
In fact, there was a really great topic I saw last week about the fact that this brand had actually just measured customers as people who bought more than once. So it basically ignored that group of people who only bought one time, because by definition they're not bought into the brand. So yeah, they might have found us randomly through search or ads or whatever, but if they buy one time and they never buy again, then effectively they're not the people we're marketing to.
Yeah.
The people we're marketing to, we're just defining as two or more purchases. And suddenly you redefine that thing. You're like, right, loyalty is about how do we get people who are already engaged to buy more.
Exactly, yeah. And
Um,
you can do a lot of cool things. You can build empathy maps specifically angled at your returning customers,
yeah,
because there's different reasons. Like an empathy map is basically what your customers think, feel, see, and hear.
yeah,
These answers are going to be very different to your first-time customers compared to your returning
yeah.
customers. And we have these very specific campaigns that we send called brand amplifiers, and we only send them to returning customers. And we have very specific thing, very specific content and very specific offers that
Interesting.
we advertise to these customers, and we track the returning customer rate of the returning customers and kind of look on a monthly basis to see which content and which angles have worked better, and then we kind of do more of the same.
So how would a brand amplifier email vary from a kind of welcome type first purchase email?
I like it. It's very simple. Look, when you look at prospects, people that have played like basically have zero orders and first time customers, the goal really is to get them to, well,
Yeah,
for prospects to get them to place that first
yeah.
order, for returning customers to come back,
Next one, yeah,
right? So depending on the brand that you have, there might not be any reason for them to come back and place a third order, because
yeah,
you simply do not, like for example, we work with this creatine brand,
yeah.
okay, and then they sell creatine tubs for women. Their acquisition offer is 3 tubs. Now, if you buy 3 tubs, that's going to last you for at least 4 months, probably even longer, because that's assuming you actually use it based on the usage
Every day, yeah,
recommendation.
exactly.
Yeah.
As most people, it's three
Most
times a
people
week.
don't. Like I still have creatine I bought like half a year ago.
Yeah, sure.
Right? Okay, so to move a bit faster. So then they also have a shaker, which is angled towards getting people to come back and purchase an additional product. So again, increasing LTV and getting the person to come back again. Now, what do you advertise to people that have that have bought both?
Yeah, I mean, exactly.
There's not much left. So then for brand amplifiers, we look at increasing the community aspect. So getting them to join Facebook groups,
Mm,
getting them to join other channels. So we have like WhatsApp now that are introducing within the EU market. So getting them to join our WhatsApp channel, and we have like another community there. So it's really about building this community aspect. So then when you do have something new to drop, you have these people that are now that have built this affinity with your brand, and you've had all these different campaigns that you've done over time to grow these channels, if you want to call them channels. Does that make sense?
No, it makes total sense. As you say, depending on obviously the sort of typical purchase frequency, in a lot of cases, as you say, it's much better to use email to basically drive engagement with some offline events or other things that are truly
Yeah.
going to tie the customer in, rather than just hammering the next product, which may just be totally inappropriate.
Again, I think I talked last time when we talked about broad segmentation strategy, which the
Yeah,
goal of that is to cast the widest net possible in your
yeah,
customers and prospects. I still believe in that, and that still holds true. But when you have a brand in which you can spend more time going deeper into the analytics, you have to realize that that's flawed as well. Because if you have a really high percentage of these returning customers that literally have nothing to buy from you anymore, you have to pivot and you have to separate those into other type of campaigns where you can advertise something else to them, getting videos for them, like, film yourself with the product, getting reviews, getting I don't know, selfies, getting them to join Facebook groups.
yeah,
So it's
yeah,
all that sort of thing that helps you kind of take things a little bit further. Because then if you put everyone in the same bucket and you say buy now with 40% off, but you have a lot of people that there's nothing left for them to buy, then it's flawed. So you need to use a broad segmentation strategy with a couple of additional layers to it.
yeah. It's actually, I mean, it reminds me that, obviously we're talking about email marketing segmentation, but actually more broadly, one of the probably the most useful things you can do with LittleData and paid ads is segmenting based on whether a new or returning customer. So we launched this early this year, and basically a custom conversion where you can say, I just want to optimize this campaign only for it to acquire new customers.
Yeah.
It's fundamentally the messaging or the audience is about finding new,
Yep.
or I want to have an ad campaign which is basically retargeting my
Yep.
existing returning customers, and there's a need for that. There's
Yep.
cases where that makes sense, particularly to tie in maybe with an email campaign, but it's a different message.
It is, yeah, and I like what you said. If there's a need for that, sure, you should implement, because there's a lot of input that goes into creating brand new resources. But if your returning customers are just 0.5%,
Yeah,
I mean, like, you
yeah,
don't,
yeah, yeah. It's
there's
not no
not enough
point.
volume
Yeah,
there.
yeah,
But if you do have the volume, you should 100% do that. Everything that we do, with the brands where it makes sense, we split our marketing strategies for customers and for zero orders prospects. Whether it's a flow, and if you would look into the KittySpout flows inside their account, you'll see that we have the flow split for prospects, where we go a lot more aggressive with higher discounts and higher frequency,
yeah,
and then customers, where we specifically target, in KittySpout's case, filter replacements and
yeah.
offers for subscriptions. Because our goal
So that's a
is,
good example of a refill type model, isn't it? As you say,
yeah,
you have the initial product, but actually your way to get maximum customer lifetime value is pushing refills and
exactly.
filters
Yeah.
and so on.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
So for a brand like that, it makes even more sense to separate these, because you actually have something even better to advertise to them. Yeah.
I mean, again, there's a very, I was talking a few months ago with a dog feed brand, very similar thing, where obviously when the customer first lands on the site, you just want to push them to buy a one-time order. That's
Yeah.
for prospects, you just want to get them to try the dog feed.
Yeah.
But obviously, once they've had the first dog feed, the valuable thing is to get them to subscribe. You don't push subscriptions to somebody who has never even purchased things before,
100%.
or
Yeah.
they might have found you, through wholesale, buying it in their pet food store and then want to subscribe. But people you have purchased and are on your list for one purchase time, then the whole marketing agenda is basically subscribe.
Yeah.
So again, segmentation massively important there. You've just got to make sure that the right message, the right person.
Segmentation is just not, I wouldn't say basic, but a really good understanding of the business. This
Yeah,
is one of the main things with a lot of, let's call it Klaviyo service providers nowadays, is that when you look at Klaviyo accounts, there's just a lot of basic templates. Every single flow, whether it's post purchase or welcome or checkout abandonment, it's just one line. Email one, email two, email three, email four. There's no segmentation going on. There's
yeah.
no this understanding of the
And that's
customer's
because
sort of,
they've just used a template flow.
they use a template flow, and they really don't, they focus on we're going to get these emails live. And the emails do look good, don't get me wrong. But the best looking email is not going to fix a bad strategy. As you say, if you try and push a subscription offer to customers that clearly just want to try the feed first, because we actually work with a dog feed company. And the main issue is that dogs oftentimes don't like the feed. Right. So owners need to give them a little bit to try. And if they like it, then they come back and purchase again.
Right. So actually pushing somebody who never tried the feed to subscribe, it's just
it's
basically
just
returns.
silly. Yeah.
It's basically pushing up your
Yeah,
customer
exactly.
support bill.